What is up, guys, gals, and non-binary pals? My name is Naomi. Welcome to House of Miscellania. Today I'm coming at you with a WIP and chat. WIP stands for Work in Progress, and I'm going to chat for about an hour. If you are new to the channel, welcome. If you're coming back to see me, hey, what's up? Good to see you again. Welcome on back, and I hope that you're all doing well. Let me go through my tools really quickly before I get started on showing you what beautiful painting I'm working on. I will be using a pen from Diamond Pen Pal. Diamond Pen Pal is one of the sponsors for Gods and Goddesses going on right now. If you want to join us, links are down in the description to the Facebook group or Discord. Also, there's information on one of my WIP and chats. It's titled Gods and Goddesses, so go check that out. In my multi-placer, I will be using Tanzanite Dot Dot Putty from Butterfly Effect Wares, another of our sponsors for Gods and Goddesses. And I am using a tray from Firefly. This one is the Hi, Sugar, Switch Mini Max. It has, hold please. Before I go on about the tray, this is Sugar. She's coming in early this time. Coming in hot. Just decided she wanted to make a little woof. She's going to sit behind me so that she's not making a bunch of noise, I guess. Anyways, this Firefly Switch Mini Max has a removable lid, which I always do, and a removable trash tray, which again, I always take out of there. And then it has an open and close pour spout, which looks like a little whistle on the back of it, which is pretty cool. And then there's this hole in the top, so if you want to put your pen in there so it doesn't roll away, you can do that. I'm also in my single placer using Ghost from Diamond Painting Daily over on Etsy. Now, not a sponsor, but I always use Ghost, so good stuff. And then the diamond painting that I am working on, let me show you, is, if I get to the right page here, there it is. Summer Solstice by Chrissa Bug from Diamond Art Club. And I'm working on her for Gods and Goddesses. And I'm like right in this area here. So excited. Now, let me go ahead and get started on this and then get right into it. Going on about my week, but I gotta find the, there it is. This one has like the perforated plastic, but it is not, it isn't the, like with the lines. And so it's a thinner plastic, and man, I'll tell you, it rips constantly. It drives me a little bananas. Oh, I gotta put, hold on. I gotta put putty in my pen. Oh my gosh, you guys. So I took my acrylic nails off and they're slowly but surely all breaking, like all the way down to the quick. Oh my goodness. It is what it is. It's a process. I knew that they were going to break. They're going to be really thin and brittle for a little while they start to heal. But it's been 5 years since I've really like looked at my regular nails, and it was time. It was really time. Like this one I have a feeling is going to go next. I can already see like a little, well, anyway, like I said, I just really needed to take the nails off for a while and let my fingers breathe. Not only that, but save myself a little money, because you know, your girl is poor, and I'm sure many of you can relate to that. And it just seemed like, I don't know, the $40 or so that I spend every month on nails, while, yeah, it is kind of part of the deal because I've got a YouTube channel and you guys only see my hands, so I'd like my hands to look, you know, presentable and nice, but it's a lot of upkeep, and it's a lot of money, ultimately, that I just don't have. And to be honest with you, would rather be saving that money for a diamond painting, truly. But yeah, so it's been a week since my last WIP and chat, as these usually go, and we've been trucking along with Gods and Goddesses. There have been 3 weeks of prizes, but the first week was like, I had a bunch of leftover stuff from my last event, Mary Morales from December last year, January of this year, and I wanted to, you know, get those out of my house. And I don't like to just hang on to things and keep them for myself. I would much rather give things to people, let them try new companies, you know. Like, they were sent to me with the understanding that they would be prizes for others, and so people who decided that they either didn't want their prizes or just, you know, never got back to me and claimed them or what have you, you know, I wanted to make sure that someone got to love those things if the original owner didn't. So anyways, we're going to be going into week 3 of sponsored prizes and Mary Morales, and I'm incredibly fortunate to have so many wonderful people in the community just willing to help out and, you know, just sponsor for prizes so people can have a good time. And I am, like I said, very, very, very fortunate for every one of them. I did decide this time to just kind of run things on my own, not for any specific reason that anybody did a bad job or anything like that. I just figure it's summer. I wanted people to be able to, you know, have a life outside of the channel, outside of diamond painting, and just want to make it an easygoing thing. And mostly it's gift cards, so there's not as much to keep track of. I'm not having people post photos, just a picture on, you know, on Facebook or Discord if they feel like it. And then, of course, commenting on the weekly video. It just makes it easier. You know, like I said, it's summertime. I know I'm busy in the summer. Like, I honestly, this is my second square for today, mostly because, you know, in the summer I tend to have other things going on. In this particular instance, I was asked to by my mother-in-law to come over and get some things straightened up and ready. She's actually going to be going in for another knee surgery. Now, I've spoken about it in probably older whipping chats and in voice chats. My mother-in-law had a knee replacement. It's been a while now. It all stemmed from a fall that she had at work. She was a nurse at the university hospital, and there was a massively wet floor, no wet floor sign. She slipped, and when she fell, she really did some serious damage to either her ACL or MCL, her knee, basically. She effed her knee up. Well, she ended up having a surgery at that time, and they were not able to determine just why she wasn't healing. She wouldn't heal and she wouldn't heal. Well, as it turns out, they discovered at that time that she had breast cancer. That was part of why she wasn't healing. Her, you know, white blood cell counts were all out of whack, what have you. I mean, I guess you could say that busticating her knee saved her life ultimately. She did end up having a radical mastectomy, and that all went fine and dandy. But then after all was said and done, she still wasn't healing. Sorry if you hear a little extra noise. I had to turn a fan on. I was getting roasty. But yeah, the knee still wasn't healing, and they just couldn't seem to figure out what was going on. And as it turns out, they did some testing. Her knee was like, it was swelling, it was getting hives, it was really red. And at first they were thinking like, you know, maybe she just needed to be on some sort of medications or, you know, this or that problem, whatever kind of process of elimination like doctors tend to do. And as it turns out, she is allergic to her knee replacement, which is very rare to my understanding. So of course it happens to my mother-in-law, because if it's a medical anomaly for some reason, it's just going to happen to her. Well, so the kicker of everything is, like, for the last year and a half, she's been suffering. I mean, her knee is all the time swollen, like beyond belief, always itching, always red, always full of hives, just looks terribly painful. And she's been just kind of suffering through it, because they keep playing like doctor volleyball with her. They'll tell her, oh, well, you have to go see this specialist. Oh, you need to go see this person. Oh, well, you got to go back to this person. Well, the problem is, it's all because this issue is technically workman's comp. And so, of course, the way with workman's comp is sort of, they don't want to pay for a whole nother surgery. They don't want to pay to fix it, because, they did that already, right? As far as they're concerned, they've done that. Well, the problem has never been fixed. I mean, she's gone through years of this, honestly, and it's just been kind of one thing after another. And so they've been, like I said, kind of kicking the can down the road, trying to avoid making it their problem. And she's getting to the point where she's like, just take my damn leg off. I would rather not deal with this than to have this sort of bureaucratic bullcrap to deal with. And so, yeah, she finally is scheduled for surgery in mid-August. So hopefully everything will work out fine, that she'll be, fixed, I guess, after all is said and done. I guess we'll see how it goes. But I went over and just been helping, well, one with yard work, because it piles up on my father-in-law, who's basically doing all of it by himself. And my mother-in-law, she can't really even stand for long periods of time without needing to stop and take a break. So even when she's walking for any sort of distance now, she uses like a rollator, which is a walker on wheels, basically. And I also had to help rebuild a ramp for the front, which, father-in-law needed the wood shop, the whole garage to do, basically, making a new ramp and install all that fun stuff. So, ugh. But that's honestly, like, I am more than happy to help with anything that they need. I don't have my own parents, so, Dustin's parents basically are my parents, and anything that they need, I'm happy to help. I know that, one, they've helped us throughout our young life, and I mean, shit, even now as adults, they help out where they can, and so I'm happy to do whatever it is that they need doing. And it's not a problem. But was busy with that today, and then I didn't end up doing my live. Other stuff that's new for the week. So Dustin sends me a text message. It was like, I feel like it was Sunday. I think it was Sunday. Dustin sends me this text message, and it's like 7. It was Sunday because he was home. he sends me this text message, and I actually was not, hadn't really gone to sleep yet. I kind of do a third shift schedule for those who, talk to me on voice chat. I'm up at all hours, literally. And he sends me this text, and I was just basically laying down to get to sleep. And I get the text alert, but then he's calling me, like immediately calling me. And he goes, I answer the phone. He goes, did you see my text message? And I'm like, I just received it, and then you called me. What's going on? And he's like, well, I was walking with Beans, and we're down by the river. Look at the picture that I sent you. And I'm going to pop it up on the screen here. Now, what you're seeing in the picture is a chicken of the woods. And I have been talking about this freaking mushroom for, I don't know, weeks since we found the first one. I've been talking about it on here. I've been talking about it to him, and how, technically we found one early in season, and they don't actually go into season until August, so there's still time to find them. And I've been talking about how I want some, because I've never liked mushrooms, but for some reason I love these things. I love the way they taste. They are like eating chicken. Here's a picture. I fried some up with butter, and they were absolutely delicious. I love them. I absolutely love them, and I can't wait to find more of them. But he brought home like 3-gallon sized Ziploc bags, and that's just what he brought home to our house. I guess he gave some to his parents. He gave some to a coworker. I mean, you could see in the original picture, it was massive. Like, his hands in the picture, huge, huge, huge. And so, my goodness, I have enough to make more. They can keep for a little while, but we're getting on the point where, I need to do something with them, or just throw them out or whatever, because yeah, they're not going to last a whole lot longer. But oh my gosh, they're so freaking delicious. And like I said, I don't even like mushrooms, but they taste like chicken, so it works out well that their name is Chicken of the Woods. But yeah, we ended up getting those. I fried them up in butter. The kids didn't want to eat any because me like it. Well, whatever. We'll eat them. I don't care. It's good stuff. But, oh, hold on. Sorry about that. I'm not even sure why she's barking. There's literally nothing to bark at. It's the middle of the dang night. But yeah, so good. And I'm just really happy to have found a mushroom that I actually enjoy. I like them better than morels. And morels are supposed to be like the end-all be-all as far as mushrooms go. But these, in my opinion, taste better. Now, granted, I've only had morels one way. And they were too, like, small-ish morels. I would be happy to try them again. But I definitely have so far enjoyed the Chicken of the Woods better. So, I don't know, maybe I'm crazy. If you like morels, tell me how I'm supposed to, because I ended up battering them and frying them that way. And I don't know, maybe I shouldn't have. Maybe I should have just cooked them up in butter like I did with the Chicken of the Woods. Maybe I ruined them. I don't know. Do you eat morels? How do you like them if you do eat them? Anyways, so yeah, mushrooms, good stuff. And then what else is new? Oh, we've been taking a lot of walks down by the river. That's kind of our go-to spot. That's where we go. And we have a family, actually. Well, most of the time when we go walk down by the river, we see this giant freaking bird, and we've been trying to identify it for the longest time. Dustin has been saying it's an osprey, and I'm like, could be. So in other countries, they're called a fishing eagle or a fish eagle. They're really freaking huge. Their wingspan is like can be 5 to 6 feet across. They're massive, and they're kind of shaped like an M in the sky. Well, we have a lot of turkey vultures, which are very dark in the sky, but like, they call them black hawks here. They're not hawks. They are definitely turkey vultures. I saw one up close today, and oh my God, they're so ugly. Bald-headed. Sorry to any vulture lovers out there. They are ugly. Can't help it. I know it's not their fault. Hold on, Sugar's about to bark again. Put her behind me again, so hopefully she won't bark. But yeah, so we thought, okay, well, maybe it's a turkey vulture. But they have these wings where at the end of their wings, it looks like fingers off of their wings. So they're pretty distinguishable. It's pretty easy to tell when you're seeing a turkey vulture and it doesn't look like a turkey vulture. So, you know, we've been watching, and we'd see one down on the river fishing, usually hunting, you know, whatever. Well, it's got a like white belly, really dark wings. And so we're thinking like, that's got to be an osprey. The only other birds that are down on the river that are really dark like that are the bald eagles, but it's definitely not a bald eagle. Like, we thought, okay, well, maybe it's a juvenile bald eagle. No, it's not that either, because we've seen the juvenile bald eagles. We know what those look like. So we've been trying to identify it. Well, today we saw, I assume, a family of them, 3 of them. And one, we got to hear their calls. So I, you know, looked that up online and looked up characteristics and whatnot. And sure as ever, it is an osprey. So, like, as far as really cool wildlife, and like, okay, I am not what you would call a bird watcher. Like, I amateur at best, like beginner amateur at best. I do like watching birds. I mean, if there's interesting birds to watch, I will watch them. We have a lot of your regular, you know, we have mallards, we have Canada geese, we have plovers, which they're like these funny little birds. They're very territorial. They like to complain a lot. And they do a lot of like walking around. In fact, I have a tattoo on the back of my neck that is written in Egyptian in hieroglyphs, and there's actually a plover tattoo on the back of my neck. But the plovers, and then I've talked to you guys about the pelicans. We have pelicans down on the river, and then the bald eagle family that lives down on the river. Like, all of these things we've started to see over the last few years as they removed one of the dams that we had, and ever since then our water has been so much healthier in the river, and we've seen all kinds of really interesting fowl, lots of interesting birds, and one of those now happens to be an osprey. And I had never seen one before, and now just down on the river today there were 3 of them. We got to hear them calling to each other. We got to see them hunting on the river, which is really cool looking. It's really cool when they decide to like stop where they are in the sky. It's like essentially they flap their wings backward and they can stay basically in one place and hunt from where they are. Really, really cool. Nice to see some, and I guess they've been around for a while as far as hunting parts of the Rock River. I just don't think that they were down as far as where we are necessarily. They were probably hunting on other cleaner parts of the river, because the parts of the river where we walk are like on and downstream from where General Motors used to be, which was pretty heavy pollutant in the river. So now that the dam is gone and now that General Motors is gone, we just see all kinds of really cool birds. And, you know, I've mentioned before, I live in Wisconsin, and I've been here since 1987. My mom and I moved to Wisconsin, and it's home. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that I would want to live in another state. Um, it would have to be a state that I really, really fell in love with in order to move away from Wisconsin. I have all four seasons here. The scenery here is gorgeous. There's so much of Wisconsin that even though we've been to a lot of places in Wisconsin, there's still lots of Wisconsin that I've yet to see, which I'd like to do some more exploring on that. You know, go to some more state parks or even county parks. I really love it here. And so the fact that there's new things to discover in the city that I currently live in, which I moved here in 96, 95 or 96. And so, yeah, it's nice to have new things to discover in a place that I've lived a really long time. That's it keeps it fresh, you know. And no, I don't live in a big city. It's a small city, and so there's a little hustle and bustle. It's not like Madison or Milwaukee or Chicago, which, you know, all of those places, large cities, are really not that far. Like Chicago is about an hour and 15, hour and a half drive from where I live. So, you know, if I really wanted the hustle and bustle of a bigger city like Chicago, I could go get it. But I do like it here. I don't, I feel like this is home. And I think a lot of that has to do with my mom and then a lot of summers growing up. And that actually brings me into just kind of something else I wanted to talk a little bit about, which was summers as a kid and some of the things that I did to keep myself busy as the adult child of an alcoholic. I really was kind of responsible for myself in a lot of ways, and kind of sort of in parenting my parent, as is fairly standard for the adult child of an alcoholic, although I was not an adult then. But I remember summers were always kind of, well, they were chaotic with no plans. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't make a lot of plans. We ended up, you know, it was me and my friends, and we would go and look for trouble because, you know, that's what kids do. I remember a lot of going to like the skating rink when I lived in Madison, like young teenage years, kind of preteen and young teen years. We did a lot of going to the skating rink, which I know I'm dating myself hard by talking about going to the skating rink, but like it was one of my favorite places. In fact, I really wish that our mall, which like everybody's mall is failing, that they would put a freaking skating rink in there, because I think I would go and rock some skates even now. I would definitely go to a skating rink if there was one like readily available nearby. But yeah, I spent a lot of summers at the skating rinks. I remember one summer, my friend and I and her younger brother and his friend, we decided to go out and TP houses, toilet paper houses. And I remember I came up with this like bright idea that if we were going to TP houses, that we wouldn't get caught if I like if we TP'd my house, then obviously the neighbors would think that, you know, it was somebody else or whatever. I don't know. What I do know is that I did 100% get caught by my mom TPing my own house, and I had to clean it up, which sucked. Thought I was going to be able to get away with it and blame somebody else, be like, I don't know who did it. Yeah. And I, of course, tried to get my friends that helped me TP my house to come back and help me. But, of course, no beans there. No dice. I don't want to say no beans too loud. I think I'm talking about him, my Great Pyrenees. But, I mean, we were dumb. We went and we TP'd, like, okay, this is going to be really sacrilegious, and I'm sorry in advance to anybody that this might offend, but I remember that we TP'd the church down the street, and they had this big old cross in front of the church, like, I don't know, it must have been 25 feet tall. And I remember we actually TP'd the cross. Naughty children, very naughty children. We had these, I lived like 3 blocks from the high school and middle school where I went, but at the time I was, at that point, like a freshman in high school, or 8th grade. I was either 8th going into 9th, but the schools were right next to each other. The middle school and the high school, they were like right next door. And we had these at the high school. There was a flagpole out front, and in the summertime when there was no school, they decided, like, okay, we're gonna, you know, lower the flag, just take it down for the summer. And so I remember there was like, okay, so okay, I got paper, hold on a second. So where the flagpole was, there was this giant, like, cedar, okay? And this thing was probably, I don't know, maybe 15 feet tall. It was a 15-foot cedar. And then there was a wall in front here. It was like a kiosk or whatever that had the name of the school on it. And then there was a smaller bush here. It was just like, excuse me, like a hedge or whatever. And then the flagpole sat, like, right in here. So what we would do is we would get, oh, sorry. Okay, the kids moved upstairs and it scared beans. Okay, so where was I? There was a 15-foot tree, the wall here, a little hedge, and then right here is the flagpole, or the dot is. So the rope that was on the flagpole, we would climb up on the wall, we would take the rope, and then we would try to swing around the 15-foot tree, or conversely, try to swing around the hedge, but get back to the wall on either side. So if you could get around the tree and get back to the wall, you got points, I guess. I don't even know how we figured that out. And then the high school had baseball nets. And I remember the baseball nets, because, you know, they had a baseball program or whatever for the high school in the summertime, where the kids would come and practice or whatever they did. And I remember we would climb up the baseball nets and essentially use them like trampolines. I'm sure that we probably, like, had the baseball nets were bowed in, because we'd get up there and we'd, you know, start up at the top of it. I don't even remember. We had to have climbed it because it was just netting. And then, you know, we would start at the top and then we would roll, like, flip into the net. We honestly made our own fun because there was really nothing to do. I remember I was telling Dustin the other night, I lived in this really, really teeny tiny town, like roll the streets up at 8 o'clock at night kind of teeny tiny town in the summer. And my friend would come and see me because at the time we only lived there for a very short time. It was like maybe 6 months or something. We had lived there, and my friend came to visit me in the summer, and I remember we would walk up and down the main street and we would play hide and seek with traffic. Like, I don't know why I thought this was funny or a good idea or whatever, but like whenever we would see a car coming, we would dive into a bush, or we would stand behind a tree and try to be all, I don't know, inconspicuous. People probably thought we were vandalizing or doing something really illegal, but really we were just like playing hide and go seek with people who were not looking to play hide and seek with like preteen or teenage children. And I mean, granted, I got myself into plenty of trouble too. Like, I was doing many, many things I shouldn't have been doing. These are obviously the PG versions of a lot of stories, but yeah, we kept ourselves busy. I mean, it was okay. It could have been a lot worse, I'm sure. And I think about, I was living in Madison at that time, where honestly there was lots to do everywhere. There was always something to do. And like I said, you could go to the skating rink, they had like essentially teen nights at different little nightclubs, bars, whatever. But I didn't go to any of those, mostly because I was a very socially awkward person. That's also because I did not have a diagnosis at the time. I didn't know I was autistic, but I was very socially awkward. And so being in a crowd of people, it's not that it made me anxious. It was just, I was so freaking awkward. I would end up embarrassing myself or my friends. I was really freaking annoying, like trying to be funny. I mean, yeah. And I was like stick thin. I was probably at the time, I don't know, maybe 4.5 feet tall at the most, and 60 pounds soaking wet. So, like I didn't date. I wasn't cool enough to hang out with the cool kids. So I hung out with my friends and we did dumb crap like swinging from the flagpole at the high school, which oddly enough, I recall had there was a cemetery. Okay, so the middle school was here, the high school was here, and then the cemetery was like adjoined with the parking lot, if I remember correctly, which is just weird. I remember my freshman year, we would go over to the cemetery, and that's because we were technically off school grounds, and we would play hacky sack and smoke cigarettes because we were naughty kids. But we could get away with smoking cigarettes over in the graveyard because technically it wasn't school property, and the like school officer liaison whatever couldn't leave. I don't know, maybe we thought in our minds he couldn't leave school property, so he wouldn't come over and give us a ticket. But we used to go in the graveyard and play hacky sack like on the driveway. We weren't like, hacky sackying on somebody's grave or something. But I remember I rode a lot of the public bus in the summer too. Pretty much from the time that I could get on the public bus. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I remember one summer I was, probably 8 years old, maybe 9 at the most. And it was when I really started like riding my bike places by myself. My mom let me actually ride my bike places by myself. And we had a Kmart down the main road from us. Like, it was a straight shot. I didn't have to turn any, streets or whatever, but I got it in my head to go to the Kmart. There was a toy that I wanted, and I'd have to, let me see if I can, hold on. I'm going to see if I can find them. Oh my God, I found them. Okay, they were called My Pretty Kitty or Little Pretty Kitty. I'll put a picture up here. They were like a plastic cat with long hair for like a mane, kind of, and a tail. And I went into Kmart. I wanted one, had no money, and I decided to steal one. And I maybe would have gotten away with it, except when I got back to my apartment where my mom and I lived, I put it on like the stairwell so that I could keep it there until she left and I could get it into the apartment, but she saw it. She caught me, and then she took me to the Kmart, back to the Kmart, and like called the manager. They, I guess, contrived some scare me plot, which worked, to call the police on me. And the police officer came and spoke to me about like stealing and why it was wrong and you could get arrested, and like it was scared straight sort of thing, all for this little plastic cat toy, which, not a cat toy, but it was a toy for humans, but it was a cat. All for this little plastic toy that I wanted because I just simply didn't have the money. We were very, very, very dirt poor. And so I remember my friend had some, and not that my friend was well off or anything, but definitely they had more money than my mom and I did. And she had some. I wanted one, and obviously I couldn't have hers. I didn't steal from my friends, but I'll tell you, I did not steal again after that. The visit with the officer definitely scared me straight. Well, like I probably maybe took some gum or a candy bar or something, but, kid stuff. But I remember that was just me in the summer riding my bike to the store, and I got myself up to all kinds of trouble, but I remember a lot of it kind of being on my own, which, I mean, isn't surprising now looking back on it, but I did spend an inordinate amount of time just kind of on my own. And I remember the upstairs neighbors, they would have me babysit their ball python. And, they'd go away for a weekend or something, and they'd give my mom the key to their apartment, and I was responsible for feeding the snake. And I remember, like, not at all being grossed out by, like, the mice or whatever, and the boa constrictor was incredibly friendly. Never really had a problem with snakes, or any animal for that matter. I've always really had a connection with animals of all kinds. I don't know. I feel like animals, they get you. You know what I mean? Like, they go off of an energy. They don't, like, there's no miscommunication with an animal. They get you or they don't get you. You know what I mean? They like you or they don't like you. And it's pretty easy to know the difference between whether they're, hateful of you or they like you a lot. I remember my mom used to love to tell this story about a German Shepherd that lived across the street from us when we lived in Florida. I was like, I don't know, 5 years old. Again, this was in the summer. Now I distinctly remember what happened because I got bit in the face. And when that happens, you tend to remember it. And no, I don't have a fear of dogs or German Shepherds. I deserved what I got. So I poked the dog, this German Shepherd, in its nose, like in its nostril. I poked it right in its nostril, and it bit me in the face. I have a little scar, by my eyebrow and where it meets like the bridge of my nose. I remember very distinctly. I poked the dog right in its nose, but for some reason, my mom loved to tell people that I poked it in its butthole, and I was like, I was 5 by that point. I wasn't poking dogs in buttholes at 5. I could see myself being 3 or 4 and doing that. Maybe 3. 4 is pushing it, but nah, by 5, I think I knew better not to be poking dogs up the butthole. What? And so I'd argue with my mom, like, could you not tell people that I poked a dog up a butthole? Because I never did that. Like, it never happened. But she, like, insisted that that was the way that happened. I'm like, no. Do you have any of those where, like, your parent tells a story about your childhood and you remember it one way and they remember it another? I mean, now I can't, argue it with her because my mom's no longer here, but yeah, she would tell that story all the time. All of the time. And it's like, Mom, you're not even telling a true story. Like, I didn't poke the dog up the butthole. I do not, I don't know why you keep telling people that. I'm like, I was there. You were not there. You were there for the aftermath after I got bit in my face. Because I was bleeding. But I never poked a dog up the nose after that. Yeah, I've learned my lesson. You just don't poke dogs up the nose. You know what I mean? They don't like it. I don't like it. I don't even know why I did it to the dog. Oh, like, I don't know what I thought I was doing. No clue why that thought even crossed my mind. But yeah, I've always gotten myself, I think, into like worst trouble in summer, because that's the time where, like, everything was very unstructured, you know what I mean? And knowing what I know now, it's obvious to me that, like, structure would have been better for somebody who had autism, but as I didn't know that that's what was going on with me, I didn't realize that structure was so important. But the structure that school brought me definitely kept me out of a lot of trouble. And then, summertime would come and here I am riding my bikes. I remember the first time that in the summer that I climbed up a tree way too high, like way too high. I fell out of the tree probably like 10 feet, but I landed on my back. And I don't know if you've ever, like, fallen and landed on your back and knocked the wind out of yourself. Oh, Beans, what you whining? Oh, poor Beans. I don't know what his problem is. Hold on. Let me go see what he needs. There we go. Just got him to lay down. He's been shaking his head a lot, and so we've got drops for him for, like, ear mites or whatever, ear mite drops, and he's so testy when we try to put him in his ears. Like, he acts like he's going to bite somebody. Like, I don't worry that he's going to bite me. He's never actually tried to do it, but he makes lots of sounds and lots of indications like he's going to nail me, but of course he never does. But yeah, I realize now the structure that that just being in school afforded me and the kind of trouble that I would get into. But no, I was saying, I don't know if you've ever fallen, like, really from a high place and then landed on your back and knocked the wind out of yourself, but I really thought I was gonna die. Like, I thought I was just dying, because you lay there and you're like like gasping, just trying to get your lungs to fill back up with air again. Learned my lesson after that. I don't like heights now, and that's probably a big part of it, is like, you only have to land really, really hard on your back and knock the air out of yourself one good time before you just really don't like heights anymore. But I think my favorite part of summers was always, like, and even now, is, well, one, obviously the warm compared to all of the winters in Wisconsin, which are incredibly cold, but just the kind of adventures that I would find for myself then and now. I mean, I am a very curious person, and I like to just go see new places and try new things. But what's your favorite part of summer? here I am working on summer solstice, and it got me reminiscent on summers past. What's your favorite memory of summer? Like I said, I hope it's not poking a dog in the butthole. I never did that. I don't know, like my mom, if heaven is a place and that is where she is watching me right now. Mom, tell me why you think I poked a dog in the butthole. That'd be great. Because I never did that. I swear. Unless I have misremembered a trauma like getting bit in the face by a dog. I want to know why you think I poked the dog in the butthole. But anyways, tell me your favorite summer memory. I have my tarot cards. I forgot to mention them at the top, but I always read a tarot card as like a thought for the week, and I've got some, like side stuff going on. I talked a little bit about it last week, but I don't like to dwell on negative, especially on this channel. I mean, granted, yes, I use you guys as kind of a soundboard for, like, essentially it's just me here talking to myself and kind of talking myself through my process, right? But you guys listen and I appreciate that. But I like to come with solutions. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm going to come with a problem, then I want to sit and talk it through until I have a solution. And I did manage to over time sit and talk with some friends and kind of come up with, I think, a game plan for my, like, what I'm gonna do next, I believe. Well, let's see what the tarot card has to say. Maybe it'll give me another, because last week I got some really, really, like, solid and sound advice. So maybe this week it'll give me some more. Because while I haven't fully resolved the issue that I had going on, I'm resolved in what I want to do, and that sometimes can be just as important. You know what I mean? But okay, let me lay these last couple of drills right here. I just have a little bit of that color left. Isn't this gorgeous? Okay, I don't need that anymore. All right, let me, actually, yes I do. What did I just do that for? I need to cover this up so I can read the tarot card. Okay, let me set that there. And then I have already shuffled the cards. So the one on top is the one we're going to read. And we have, make sure there's no boobs, He of the Fiery Sword. Ooh, that's beautiful. He of the Fiery Sword. And it is right side up. Okay. We'll set that there. He of the Fiery Sword. Our thought for the week. Keywords are the active principle, spiritual will, justice, and protection are the keywords. It says, the presence of the Fiery Sword's master in a reading can indicate that there is, or there is a need for, clear and focused will and a determination to carry through on decisions, even if much effort is required. Or he can tell us that such will and strength is present in regard to the issues under consideration. We need to consider how he is expressing his will and strength and how that expression may be enhanced or improved. It is this singer's energy that enables us to burst the bonds of an outgrown way of being and move on to the next level. He indicates that this is a time to take action based on clear spiritual will. His presence indicates great strength and great potential for good. It also reminds us that if we call upon him, we will receive assistance. The presence of this card in a reading radiates strength and willpower. All right. Interesting. So it's about using our strength and considering how that expression may be enhanced or improved. Time to take action based on clear spiritual will. And you know, I was just literally just saying, I've decided what I want to do. I have made a determination, and I intend to stick with it. It's actually a lot harder for me to stick to what I want to do. And that's mostly because I'm the kind of person who often will take blame because it's easier. I will make peace because it's easier. I will apologize even if I don't think I'm wrong because it's easier. And it's often that I end up, well, I feel like the weak person, and not because I've apologized. I don't want to get that twisted. I don't think that apologizing is weak at all. In fact, I think it takes a very strong person to say I'm sorry and mean it. I end up feeling like the weak person because oftentimes in, disagreements or what have you, I end up never having my feelings validated by the other party, and then I leave feeling like they never really fully understood my intentions, or they maybe never really got what I was trying to say or trying to do. And that can be really hard. And so I do sometimes need to be reminded to stick to the plan, to keep the willpower in said situations, because I am kind of a caver. I cave because ultimately I want peace. And I'm so, I think, afraid of being alone that I would rather just feel wrong all the time than to be by myself and be right. You know what I mean? Because I think there are some people out there whose need to be correct sometimes is so powerful that if you really push and insist on being the person who's right, then you're going to lose them anyway. You know what I mean? And so I'm like I said, I'm scared to be alone. And I know that there are some of you probably listening right now that I have really connected with, and so I don't really have too many fears about being fully alone. And so I think that's what's made my determination this time so much stronger in situations that I'm dealing with. One, because I have people to talk to that I didn't have before. And then two, I think also I have people who encourage me to stick up for myself and to make sure that my feelings are validated and heard. I don't have to be right. It's actually sometimes easier to be wrong, but I do need to be understood. That's the important part. I don't really care about the being right part. It's about the being understood. That's really where it's hard, because I've spent a good, not small portion of my life being misunderstood. So, to have people who validate you and make you feel like understood and listened to, it's so massive. And I know I say this a lot, but I'm very, very grateful. And if you're a person listening and, you haven't gotten to know me quite like that, it's not very hard to do. If you end up on Discord and voice chat after one of the lives or something, I pretty much pour my heart out similarly to how I do here anyways. So whatever you haven't learned here, you'll learn in voice chat for sure. But all right, well, I hope that whatever you're doing, that you are going to stick to your guns as well, because it isn't important for you to be right, but it is important for you to be heard. You know what I mean? And validated. Your feelings are valid. Feelings aren't fact, but you know, your feelings are still valid regardless. But anyway, well, all in all, a good one. I'm so happy that it's summer. I'm so happy that you're here, and I'm so happy that we get to share this time together. I am going to get out of here, finish this square up on my own, and hopefully you're working on something pretty good yourself. Get that square finished, whatever you're doing. And yeah, get outside and go explore. Go do something out in this too hot weather, because it's getting hot again. But make sure that you're out there and hungry for adventure like I am. There's many fun summers yet to be had, so get out there and get you one. All right, guys, I'm gonna get out of here, and much love to you. Take care of yourself and each other. Talk to you later. Bye.